When I told my wife, Gesh, about what we were doing making this video, she said, "Oh, that's great. You're going to answer the question that everybody is afraid to ask. Well, what the hell is a timber frame anyway?"
The difference between a timber frame and other structures is the way the individual parts are connected. Timber frames utilize wood-to-wood joinery and rarely use steel parts, whereas post and beam structures are connected with metal fasteners and connectors.
So what we've got here is a display, and it shows a lot of the typical joinery that you would find in a timber frame that would be a structure. It could be centuries old, or maybe even just a barn that was built 150 years ago. Let's go back in time, 100 years, 200 years, or more. And what we're finding is that there's a method of construction that's widely used that is employing solid timbers, interlocking joinery, and wooden pegs to create this structural framework of a building that will serve for hundreds of years, centuries. So let's take this thing apart and have a closer look. So the history of this is that you've got a construction method that uses plentiful raw materials, and where the craftsman using the tools to create the interlocking joints, but then the entire assembly is something that is all wood. And what you've got here is interplay of materials that really work well together, and they kind of work to each other's strengths. Here's a good question for you, Eric. You're an owner of a timber frame company. You've been in this industry for a lot of years. Why go to all of this time and expense of creating this interlocking joinery when there's other ways to build?
Years ago when we made these, back in 2012, we went out to the scrap pile and got some Douglas fir. Same stick of wood. And you can see it says fabrication date September 17th. We said, okay, let's make another one, but let's just not make it with mortise and tenon joinery. Let's just screw it together.
Okay.
So what we did then was, you can see the hole here. We plugged one of the holes.
Okay.
And we put 2 German structural screws. And when we built it, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
Yeah, because those screws, you know, they're aggressively threaded. They've got a big head on them. So when they drive, they really pull those things together, don't they?
Right.
So why go to all the time and expense of this interlocking joinery?
It's built for the ages. This is built from green wood, which in addition to being sustainable, green, when we say green, we mean it's wet. Okay?
Right.
So the tree was cut not that long ago. And so it's still full of water, all right? And as wood dries, it shrinks.
So we're changing a dimension this way. So then what's happening once that timber starts to shrink?
Watch here. Okay? I'm moving
I can see it.
I mean, so the only thing holding that now is those 2 screws.
Right.
That were really tight at one point, but aren't anymore.
Not as rigid as the mortise and tenon joint.
Okay, feels kind of steady, that one, Eric.
Yeah.
All right, let's put some weight on it. Okay.
No, you can hear it straining.
You can hear it straining. All right, but
not moving.
I don't know how long those metal fasteners exposed to the moisture in the air. Okay, I mean, wood is hygroscopic. It absorbs and releases moisture just like a sponge. Is it 100 years before those screws fail?
One way to say why go to all this time and expense, you had mentioned that, you know, what's the longevity of metal fasteners over time and repeatedly stressed or exposed to the elements, things like that. When you're timber framing, you've got something that has a proven track record. You've got a method that has stood the test of time. And so what would you say to something like that? Why would you go to all this expense and time?
I think the Swiss actually have the best answer for that. It's the most sustainable answer. Build it once.